Very much, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you're doing. I want to give you a little history. It'll take a moment or two, but I want to give it to you. It's a history you do not know. No way you could know it. It's a history that 95% of the American people don't know, and I suspect an even higher percentage of the world don't know. And what it is a history of the change in the United States, and I'm going to quit using that term and use the term American empire because that's far more descriptive. It's a change the American empire decided on in a national security strategy it published for public dissemination in 2002 in the George W. Bush administration, which I served very intimately and closely, finally as Powell's, the Secretary of State's chief of staff. What that strategy did was take Ariel Sharon, Ehud Barak, and ultimately Bibi Netanyahu at the center of it all, and put them in what I would call the strategic seat in Israel. It did that because it had determined, the empire, the leadership of the empire had determined that there was no way to bring peace to the Middle East, to the Levant in general. No way. The only thing it could do was to create chaos and confusion from Lebanon to the southern end of the Persian Gulf to keep the region in turmoil in order to protect its attack dog, which is what Israel was going to become after this strategy was implemented. And so you're not up against Bibi Netanyahu and Israel, so to speak. You're up against the empire. You're up against an empire which has changed its strategy. My president, George W. Bush, told Ariel Sharon in the Oval Office in 2004, the peace process is over. Go to it. Whatever you want to do, we will back you up. And that is what you're seeing today. That is what is taking place without the knowledge, I feel, of the majority of the American people. AIPAC and the Jewish lobby, as advocated by John Mearsheimer and Steve Walt, whom I know and whom I use the papers and book of to teach my students from time to time, are wrong. Now they are wrong. That is not the reason the United States is doing what it's doing, billions of dollars pouring into the coffers of congressmen and so forth. It's a propaganda ploy. The reason it's doing it is because the empire wants to do it. It is its geopolitical and strategic policy to do it, which is why Mr. Blinken can go and lie to the Congress of the United States repeatedly, and he's going to do it again next week over another $8 billion tranche going to Israel, and not flinch about it because he is carrying out the empire's wishes. The empire wants the chaos and confusion in the Levant. That's what you're up against. Now, what is he going to do this next week? It already happened yesterday. The notification to Congress for $8 billion more dollars going to Israel. Formal notification will probably take place this coming week. It's going to come, most of these arms are going to come from current stocks. That is to say, we're going to bleed the war reserves in Israel that are U.S. war reserves, even more so, and from the continental United States. But it's going to take, and here's something you should know, it's going to take at least a year or two to get all these arms to them because we simply don't have them right now. We've got to manufacture. It includes air-to-air missiles, parentheses there, open parentheses. What do they need air-to-air missiles for? Attacking Iran, because no one else has an air force that they're going to go up against. And the last time they went up against Iran, they chickened out. They saw the Russian radar signatures that were in front of them, and they didn't know what to do about them. And so they turned around and came back home. They dropped a few bombs on key targets, but they didn't do much destruction. And Iran actually won that exchange. Why do they need these air-to-air missiles? That's a question you should ask yourself. It also includes 155 millimeter artillery rounds, which are doing much of the damage in Gaza and in Lebanon. It also includes Hellfire missiles for their Apache helicopters, and it also includes an entire tranche of 500-pound bombs. This is $8 billion of the empire's emphasis on keeping its attack dog killing people in the Levant. That will make it 17.9, $18 billion that we've given since October the 7th, maybe even double that if you look at all the ways we get around some of the restrictions on giving money. Bernie Sanders is the only senator I can detect who is trying to turn this around somewhat. He is trying to advocate and to get others to advocate for no offensive weapons, just defensive weapons, which means almost everything in these sales would not go. Now, the House Foreign Affairs Committee and the Senate Foreign Relations Committee both have an option to call for hearings on these arms sales next week or sometime thereafter. I don't think they will, but we should agitate for them to do so, if no other reason, even if we think they won't change the policy, if for no other reason than to just embarrass the devil out of them for what they're doing. Because Blinken is going to lie again. They're going to go ahead and approve these arms sales, and we're going to have more of what we've seen in the past and are going to see more of in the future, and that we're objecting to strenuously. And that's a lot of people dying and don't need to be dying. On top of all of that, Israel is now moving slowly, incrementally with armor into Syria. This is going to be a real question in the next 6 months. How much territory is Israel going to take? And I will guarantee you they're not going to be any kinder as they go into Israel than they are in Gaza right now or in Lebanon. They are also going to try to take more of Lebanon very shortly. There is no ceasefire. Israel has violated the ceasefire every day with Lebanon. Hezbollah would have responded dramatically had they not had their line of communication, line of support cut off. But now they've reestablished one, and they are going to respond effectively. But I don't think ultimately the empire is going to let them win. So we're going to have Lebanon going down too. Jordan, if I were the king of Jordan right now, I'd be sweating bullets because Netanyahu has designs on Jordan too. So that's what you're up against. And that's what you need to talk about on the Hill, is this tranche of $8 billion more to go and do the things that the doctor just described.
Thank you, Mr. Wilkerson. Thank you for sharing this view, which is actually is new for us, new for me, and I consider myself to be very